Seven is a 1995 film directed by David Fincher. When a retiring police detective, William Somerset, played by Morgan Freeman, tackles a final case with the aid of a newly transferred David Mills, played by Brad Pitt, they discover a number of elaborate and grisly murders. They soon realize they are dealing with a serial killer who is targeting people he thinks represent one of the 7 deadly sins. The title of this film sets the mood for the audience before they even step into the theatre. Seven doesn't open with its title sequence. Instead, we are introduced to the detectives and their immediate, aggressive, argumentative chemistry that intrigues the audience in their partnership and its possible evolution. The prelude shows the daily routine for Detective William Somerset. It uses only diegetic sound and long cuts to show its calm and organised nature. The quick cut between the composed world of Somerset and a dead body on the floor is jarring to the audience and foreshadows how fast the mood in this film will change. As the camera tracks Somerset walking through the hallway, the relationship between him and the other detectives becomes clear. He's always wanting to know the absolute truth, whereas the others want an easy truth. Throughout the film, the theme of violent truths become obvious. The lighting in this prelude stays fairly constant, with lots of warm yellows, reds, and greens creating a dark and unsettling mood. This prelude introduced many of the themes from Seven: hopelessness, apathy, desperation, and violence. At the end of the prelude, the calming ritual of Somerset's metronome drowning out the street violence was welcomed by the viewer. The hypnotic rhythm of the metronome captured and held the audience's attention, leading them straight into the title sequence of the film and keeping them there. The dark world of the title sequence is different to the world Somerset lives in. Instead of the mindless violence the audience was introduced to in the prelude, this violence is meticulous and obsessive. The introduction to the mind of the serial killer is shown through fragments and vignettes as he creates diary entries, cuts his fingerprints off, and plans his motives. The extreme close-ups, quick cuts, and intense music gives the audience an intimate look into the mind of the killer. The story of Seven is told through the time frame of a week for many reasons. Somerset retires in a week, Mills has a week to prove himself, and of course there are 7 deadly sins. Although the linear time frame makes sense, it's a bit of an easy way out by Fincher, and the script is filled with cliches and clues that are difficult to follow and are almost too obscure for the audience. However, the clincher of this film is the final scene. The absolute punch-in-your-gut end scene of Seven is what gives it the heart and the grit. It's what contains one of the many themes in the film that I will touch on later. Although the script is fairly off, the way Seven looks and is cut together saves it. Fincher utilizes muted warm colours to set a bleak world, and by using a bleach bypass to keep the silver in the film stock, gives everything a grey tint, makes the characters look washed out and tired. The scenes are often lit by torches in dark rooms when the lights don't turn on, or by dimly lit light fixtures. The bleak world is often raining and gives it a sense of hopelessness. One of the main themes of Seven is violence and the truth that lies behind it. When we begin to see John Doe's crimes, we see how devoted, mad, and organised he is. Through his meticulous planning, the audience begins to understand him, which is what creates such an unsettling feeling. The title sequence is what puts the audience into his mind, and the connection begins to grow through the incredibly gratuitous violence on scene. As we express disgust at the violent acts, part of our human nature is to enjoy them as a form of escape. The monster in this film is a projection of wish fulfillment and greater desire for violence by us. Although the audience's subconscious enjoys this violent escape, the moment of catharsis emerges when the hero kills the villain. The final scene makes the audience feel godlike, unstoppable. This violent truth is shown through Mills shooting John Doe. The final goal for the killer was to complete the 7 deadly sins, and he succeeded. His violence made Mills succumb to violence in retaliation, and the absolute truth that Somerset was searching for was that violence will always win. Seven is a dark and violent film, and David Fincher utilized warm colors, long shots, and cuts, with intense music to create a sense of fear and suspense in the viewer. The theme of meticulous violence and the violent truth expresses the innermost desires of audiences and frightens them. Although the constant violence can leave the audience desensitized sometimes, Fincher is able to hold their attention with spectacular color palettes and music.